Pour yourself a glass of water from the tap. Look at it. It looks clear. It looks clean. It looks safe. Now smell it. If you live in a modern city, you catch that faint, stinging scent of the swimming pool. That is chlorine, a chemical weapon used in World War I, now pumped into your pipes to keep you alive. You drink it without thinking. You trust the municipality. You trust the pipes. But if you could put that glass under a microscope, the illusion of purity would shatter. You would likely find microplastics, tiny shards of polymer from car tires and synthetic clothing. You might find trace amounts of antidepressants, birth control hormones, and antibiotics that have passed through the bodies of your neighbors, through the treatment plant, and back into your glass. We are told that we have the cleanest water in history. In terms of deadly bacteria like cholera, that is true. But in terms of long-term chemical toxicity, we are drinking a cocktail that no human biology has ever encountered. Now, look back 600 years. The medieval peasant is often depicted as a drunkard, stumbling through the mud with a tankard of ale in his hand. We laugh at him. We think he was ignorant of hydration. But he was right. And you are the one drinking poison. The medieval obsession with ale, and specifically small beer, was not about getting intoxicated. It was about survival. It was a sophisticated, decentralized water treatment system that relied on biology instead of chemistry. They didn't have chlorine. They didn't have reverse osmosis. But they rarely died from the water they brewed. They drank a living liquid that was pathogen-free, rich in B vitamins, packed with electrolytes, and safe for children. They were hydrated. Their gut biomes were robust, and they weren't ingesting the shredded remains of a plastic water bottle with every sip. The shift from fermented, boiled beverages to chemically treated tap water solved one problem: acute infection. But it created a slow-moving disaster of chronic inflammation and endocrine disruption. Before we go further, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Does your tap water taste weird? Do you rely on bottled water, or do you trust what comes out of the pipe? Tell me your experience, because what you're about to learn will make you look at that kitchen faucet with suspicion for the rest of your life. Today, we are going to dismantle the drunken peasant myth. We are going to explore the microbiology of brewing, the toxicity of modern pipes, and the reason why your ancestors wouldn't touch a glass of water if you paid them. By the end, you will understand why ale was the original superfood, and how to filter the modern world out of your glass. Let's start by correcting the history. When we say medieval people drank beer, your mind jumps to a modern IPA or a heavy stout with 6 or 7% alcohol. If you drank that all day, you would die of liver failure or dehydration. That is not what they were drinking. They were drinking small beer. This was a beverage produced from the second or third running of the grain. It was incredibly weak, usually between 1 and 2% alcohol. It was not a recreational drug. It was a caloric staple and a hydration source. Men drank it. Women drank it. Children drank it for breakfast. In the 16th century, the average allowance for a sailor in the British Navy was a gallon of beer per day. Not because the Navy wanted a drunken crew, but because a gallon of water sitting in a wooden barrel for 3 months turns into a fetid swamp of algae and dysentery. A gallon of beer stayed safe. Why? The medieval brewer was an unintentional microbiologist. The brewing process involves 3 specific steps that create a fortress against disease. First, the boil. To make beer, you must boil the wort, the sugary liquid extracted from grain, for an hour or more. This is thermal sterilization. Long before Louis Pasteur discovered germs, brewers were killing them with heat. In a world where streams were contaminated with animal waste, the brew kettle was the safest place in the village. Second, the hops. Medieval brewers eventually replaced gruit, a mixture of herbs, with hops. This wasn't just for flavor. Hops contain alpha acids, specifically humulone and lupulone. These compounds are potent antimicrobial agents. They stop the growth of gram-positive bacteria, the class of pathogens that causes spoilage and sickness. When you add hops, You are essentially adding a natural preservative that selectively kills the bad bugs while leaving the yeast alone. Third, and most importantly, fermentation. When yeast eats sugar, it produces two things: ethanol and carbon dioxide. The ethanol, even at low levels, is hostile to many pathogens, but the yeast does something else. It lowers the pH of the liquid. Beer is acidic, usually with a pH around 4. Most dangerous bacteria, like Salmonella, E. coli and cholera, cannot survive in an acidic environment. Furthermore, yeast is aggressive. It engages in what biologists call competitive exclusion. It eats all the available sugar and nutrients so fast that there is nothing left for harmful bacteria to consume. The result is a beverage that is biologically stable. It is a sealed environment where pathogens cannot gain a foothold. So when the peasant drank his morning ale, he wasn't catching a buzz. He was drinking water that had been thermally sterilized, chemically preserved with hops, and biologically guarded by yeast. Now, compare that to your modern tap water. The water in your glass has traveled through miles of infrastructure. Some of those pipes are iron. Some are concrete. Some, if you are unlucky, are lead. But the real villain of the modern age is not the pipe. It is the plastic. We are currently living through a microplastic crisis that future historians will look back on with horror. A 2018 study analyzed tap water samples from around the world. They found plastic fibers in 83% of the samples. If you live in the United States, the rate was 94%. You are drinking plastic. These aren't just inert particles. Microplastics act as magnets for other toxins. They absorb heavy metals and persistent organic pollutants. And they are endocrine disruptors. They mimic estrogen in the body. We are seeing plummeting testosterone levels, fertility issues, and metabolic disorders across the population. It is a silent crisis, and it is flowing out of your tap. But what about the treatment itself? Chlorine was a miracle when it was introduced. It stopped cholera. It stopped typhoid. It saved millions of lives. But chlorine is a biocide. Its job is to kill life. When you drink chlorinated water, you are introducing a mild antibiotic into your system every single day. Your gut is home to trillions of beneficial bacteria, your microbiome. These bacteria regulate your immune system, your mood, and your digestion. We know that high doses of antibiotics nuke the microbiome. But what does a low-dose, chronic exposure to chlorinated water do over 20, 30, 40 years? We are seeing an explosion of gut dysbiosis, IBS, and autoimmune conditions. Is it the sole cause? No. Is it a contributing factor? It would be naive to think otherwise. The medieval peasant had none of these risks. His small beer was actually a probiotic. Fresh, unpasteurized ale contained live yeast and residual bacteria, the good kind. It was unfiltered. It was cloudy. That sediment at the bottom, that was vitamin B complex. Yeast is one of the richest natural sources of vitamin B1, B6, and B12. So while the peasant was hydrating, he was also supplementing his diet with essential vitamins and maintaining a healthy gut flora. He was drinking liquid bread. You are drinking liquid chemistry. If this is making sense to you, hit that like button. It helps us expose the systems that are failing us. Let's talk about the hydration myth. You have been taught that water, pure, clear H2O, is the gold standard of hydration. But water in nature is never pure. It is full of electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, dissolved from rocks and soil. Modern filtration, especially the aggressive kind, strips these minerals out. If you drink distilled or heavily filtered water without remineralizing it, you can actually dehydrate yourself. The water pulls electrolytes from your body tissues to balance the osmotic pressure, and then you pee them out. Medieval ale was an isotonic beverage. It contained residual sugars, mineral salts from the grain, and fluid. It mimicked the electrolyte profile of the body fluids. This is why agricultural laborers could work 12 hours in the sun drinking beer without collapsing. They were essentially drinking a medieval Gatorade. The alcohol content was low enough that the diuretic effect, the urge to urinate, did not outpace the fluid intake. They stayed in balance. Today, we see people carrying gallon jugs of water, drinking constantly, yet suffering from headaches, fatigue, and brain fog. They are flushing their systems, not hydrating them. The transition from ale to water wasn't a health decision. It was an industrial one. As cities exploded in the 19th century, brewing enough beer for millions of people became impossible. The density of the population turned local rivers into sewers. People died of cholera by the thousands because they were drinking raw sewage mixed with river water. The government had to intervene. They built the massive treatment plants. They poured in the chlorine. They swapped the brewmaster for the chemical engineer. It was a necessary trade-off to stop mass death from acute infection. But we have kept the wartime solution long after the war ended. We are still nuking our water supply, even as our filtration technology has evolved. And now we have added a new layer of horror: pharmaceuticals. Water treatment plants are designed to filter out poop and bacteria. They are not designed to filter out complex chemical molecules. When your neighbor takes a prescription drug, their body metabolizes only a fraction of it. The rest is excreted in urine. It goes into the sewer, to the treatment plant, and back into the river. Then the city downstream pulls that water out, treats it with chlorine, and pipes it to you. Studies have found trace amounts of antidepressants, beta blockers, anticonvulsants, and lipid regulators in treated drinking water. You are microdosing your neighbor's medicine cabinet. The medieval alewife brewing in her kitchen used grain she grew, water from a deep well, and yeast she kept alive on a wooden stick. There were no SSRIs in her vat. There was no Teflon. There were no microplastics. Her product was simple, transparent, and compatible with human biology. So, what do? I'm not telling you to replace water with alcohol. The beer available to you today is not small beer. It is strong, filtered, pasteurized, and dead. If you try to hydrate with Budweiser or IPA, you will destroy your liver and your life. Do not do that. But we must learn from the principles of the past to fix the present. First, you have to filter your water. The pitcher filter in your fridge is a toy. It makes the water taste better, but it barely touches the microplastics or pharmaceutical residues. You need a serious barrier. Reverse osmosis, RO, is the gold standard. It pushes water through a membrane so fine that plastic, bacteria, and viruses cannot pass. But, and this is critical, RO water is dead water. It is empty. You must do what nature did. Remineralize it. Add a pinch of sea salt. Use mineral drops. Put the life back into the liquid. Second, reintroduce fermented beverages to your diet. You don't need the alcohol, but you need the fermentation. Kombucha, water kefir, and kvass. These are the modern biological equivalents of small beer. They are fermented. They are acidic. They create that biological shield against pathogens. And they are packed with the probiotics your gut is screaming for. Making water kefir at home costs pennies. It consumes sugar and produces beneficial acids and bubbles. It is living water. Third, banish plastic from your hydration routine. Drinking water from a plastic bottle that has been sitting in a hot delivery truck is practically an infusion of endocrine disruptors. Use glass, use stainless steel. The vessel matters. Medieval people drank from wood, leather, or ceramic. They never touched a polymer. Fourth, understand that boiling is still a valid survival tool. If you are ever in a situation where you doubt the water safety, a flood, a grid failure, remember the brewmaster. Filters can clog, chemicals run out, but heat always works. Boiling water doesn't remove chemicals, but it destroys biological threats with 100% efficiency. The medieval world was dangerous. You could die from a cut, you could die from the plague. But they didn't die from chronic plastic poisoning. They didn't destroy their gut lining with daily doses of chlorine. They took a raw, dangerous resource, groundwater, and transformed it through heat and biology into something life-giving. They turned water into food. we have turned water into a sterile chemical delivery system. You cannot escape the modern world, but you can filter it out of your glass. Stop drinking pool water. Stop drinking plastic. Reclaim the wisdom of the boil and the ferment. What worries you most about your tap water? The taste, the pipes, or what the treatment plant isn't telling you? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you want more forgotten wisdom that keeps you safe in a toxic world.